Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering the drug you depend on for survival suddenly costs half as much as before. Millions of cancer patients across Europe are on the brink of experiencing just that. And the trigger isn't a government decree or a billionaire's gift. It's a seismic shift in the global pharmaceutical industry, one that's quietly rewriting the rules of who gets life-saving medicine and at what price. But behind this breakthrough lie fierce corporate rivalries, regulatory minefields, and a looming question: can biosimilars like Tuznue truly transform access to critical therapies, or will Big Pharma find ways to keep control? Let's explore why this deal between Prestige Biopharma and Teva is capturing the attention of patients, doctors, investors, and policymakers across the globe. What exactly is a biosimilar? Why are global players racing to bring them to market? And most importantly, who stands to benefit or lose the most from this disruption? First, a crash course. In the world of pharmaceuticals, not all drugs are created equal. We're all familiar with generics, those cheaper versions of chemical drugs that flood the market once patents expire. You've probably picked up a bottle of generic ibuprofen, saving a few dollars with the pharmacist's wink. But in the realm of biomedicine, things get a whole lot more complicated. Biologics, think cancer therapies, insulin, or medicines for autoimmune diseases, are made from living cells. They're large, complex molecules that can't simply be copied in the way small molecule generics can. Creating a comparable version, called a biosimilar, is like trying to recreate a world-famous recipe without knowing the chef's exact ingredients or process. Small variations can occur, so regulatory agencies like the European Medicines Agency and the FDA require years of analytical testing, clinical trials, and safety studies before a biosimilar is approved. Safety is paramount, but the prize, access to affordable treatment for millions, is enormous. And that brings us to Tuznue. Originally developed by Roche and sold worldwide as Herceptin, trastuzumab revolutionized treatment for HER2-positive breast and gastric cancers. In the last 2 decades, Herceptin has become a multi-billion-dollar blockbuster, giving hope and years of life to patients who formerly had few options. But with global sales peaking at $7 billion a year and a 20-year monopoly thanks to patents, the pressure was always building. When would more affordable alternatives become available? The answer is now. Enter biosimilars, and specifically, the debut of Tuznue across Europe. In September 2024, Prestige Biopharma, a company with roots in Korea but headquartered in Singapore, received European Commission approval for Tuznue. Within months, they struck an exclusive licensing and supply agreement with Teva Pharmaceutical International, a massive Israeli-headquartered company with vast distribution networks and expertise in biosimilars. Under this deal, Teva gains the right to commercialize Tuznue in 31 European markets, including heavyweight economies like Germany, France, the UK, Spain, and Italy. Picture the scale. Teva's army of sales representatives, established contracts with hospitals, and sophisticated logistics operations all mobilized to bring this Herceptin biosimilar, priced significantly lower, to patients across the continent. Prestige Biopharma, meanwhile, will handle manufacturing through its affiliate, Prestige Biologics, a specialist in complex biologics production. This strategic collaboration with a global biopharmaceutical leader like Teva marks a significant achievement for our company and will allow us to make Tuznue accessible to patients throughout Europe, says Prestige Biopharma's chairwoman, Park So-yeon. For her company, this isn't just a business coup. It's a bid to join the ranks of established biosimilar heavyweights like Sandoz, Pfizer, Celltrion, and Samsung Bioepis. The stakes, both human and financial, could not be higher. The global biosimilars market is on an exponential growth curve, forecasted to reach a jaw-dropping $185 billion by 2033, a staggering annual growth rate of over 24%. In Europe, biosimilars have already saved healthcare systems billions, freeing up resources for new drugs and more patients. But it's not just about numbers. For many families, the difference between a biosimilar being available or not can mean choosing between life-extending treatment and financial ruin. So how did we get here? The story begins with biological medicines, the breakthrough cancer, autoimmune, and rare disease drugs that hit the market in the late 1990s and early 2000s. These were miracles, but they came at a steep price. With patents often lasting for 20 years or more, pharmaceutical giants enjoyed near total control over pricing, and prices soared. In countries without strong insurance systems, or where public health budgets were tight, many patients had to forego the treatments altogether. But as patents expired, a new opportunity arose: the biosimilar. Unlike generics, these aren't exact copies, but highly similar alternatives shown to have no clinically meaningful differences from the original. Over the last decade, Europe emerged as the global leader in biosimilar adoption, thanks to clear regulatory pathways and powerful incentives for doctors to prescribe cost-effective alternatives. The result? Dozens of biosimilars have been approved and embraced, most notably in oncology and rheumatology. In Japan, large-scale adoption is now accelerating too, driven by government pressure to cut healthcare costs. The United States, meanwhile, has lagged behind, entangled in patent litigation, complex reimbursement rules, and quite simply, corporate resistance from companies with a lot to lose. The biosimilar race is a high-stakes contest. Key players like Sandoz, Pfizer, Celltrion, and Samsung Bioepis have invested heavily to build their portfolios and muscle in on the lucrative post-patent markets. Alliances and acquisitions are common. Everyone is trying to strike the perfect balance between manufacturing quality, regulatory speed, and commercial firepower. But manufacturing is only half the battle. As James Chambers, a health economics researcher at Tufts, puts it, biosimilars are steadily gaining momentum in the U.S., transitioning from novel entrants to preferred therapeutic options due to their compelling cost-effectiveness. Yet the U.S. market remains stubbornly resistant, with entrenched legal and financial obstacles making launches costly and unpredictable. Meanwhile, in Europe, biosimilars have become an indispensable tool in the fight for sustainable healthcare. Governments see them as a way to contain spiraling drug costs and stretch budgets further. According to the Biodrugs Journal, heightened awareness surrounding the safety, efficacy, and regulatory maturity of biosimilars is indispensable for fostering their widespread adoption and effectively addressing unmet patient needs. To appreciate the impact, look to the launch of rituximab biosimilars. In just 4 years, their adoption in European Medicare and Medicaid systems has been robust, with millions in savings and more patients gaining access to once-out-of-reach therapies. But in a market as lucrative as cancer biologics, nothing comes easy. Here's where the story gets thorny. Despite the promise, biosimilar companies face an arsenal of obstacles. Patent litigation is perhaps the most notorious. Original manufacturers often file reams of lawsuits, exploiting every legal avenue to delay biosimilar launches and protect their profit margins for as long as possible. In the U.S., this tactic has kept cheaper competitors out of the hands of patients for years past the intended expiration dates. Europe's more streamlined regulatory and legal environment has helped biosimilars gain faster market entry. But even there, payers and providers can be slow to change, wary of switching off tried and tested brands for newer alternatives. Then there's the challenge of trust. Biologic medicines are often used in life or death situations. Doctors and patients need to be absolutely confident in switching to a biosimilar. This skepticism was a barrier during the first wave of biosimilar launches. But clinical trials and real-world evidence have now piled up, demonstrating that carefully developed biosimilars are safe and effective. Still, lingering doubts and inertia can slow adoption, particularly in regions where information campaigns and incentives lag behind policy ambition. Overcoming patent-related obstacles and addressing payer-related barriers are paramount to unlocking the full potential of biosimilars, says industry analyst Skylar Jeremias. She makes it sound simple, but the battleground over market share, especially in oncology drugs worth billions of dollars a year, is as complex and fraught as ever. Complicating factors even further are the emergence of private label agreements. Ryan Haumschild, a managed care expert, notes that private label agreements serve as a catalyst for biosimilar market entry, enabling manufacturers to forge collaborative partnerships that optimize branding, distribution, and market access, ultimately expanding treatment options and reducing costs. This Prestige Teva deal is a textbook case. Prestige gains the reach and brand power of Teva. Teva gets a high-quality product without reinventing the production wheel, and patients, in theory, get cheaper drugs. Yet for all these advantages, the fine print matters. Pricing strategies can vary wildly. Some manufacturers adopt a high WAC, wholesale acquisition cost model to signal quality, while others undercut rivals in hopes of grabbing rapid market share. The result? An unpredictable patchwork of pricing across countries and even within regions. Employers and national health systems are stepping in, creating financial incentives and formulary strategies to maximize biosimilar uptake. But for every success, there are stories of stubborn resistance, delayed launches, and confusing reimbursement policies that trip up even the savviest hospital administrators. And then there's the human side. For hospitals, switching to a biosimilar isn't just a financial calculation. It's about physician confidence, patient education, and the ability to track real-world outcomes. No one wants headlines about a bad outcome linked, rightly or wrongly, to a switch. Thus, every launch requires not just a supply contract but also a campaign to win hearts and minds. Here comes the main conflict. As Tuznue prepares to sweep across 31 countries, will it unlock true savings and access, or will hidden financial, legal, and psychological barriers stall or even block its promise? With so many players, pharma giants, regulators, doctors, patients, insurers, all pulling in different directions, the future of biosimilars in Europe hangs in the balance. In the next chapter, we'll dive even deeper. Which countries are best positioned to embrace this change? How are competitors fighting back? And could big pharma's countermoves blunt the impact of Tuznue and its peers? Most crucially, will the wave of biosimilars really drive down cancer drug prices, or will old patterns of control and profit prevail? Stay with us as we uncover the high-stakes game unfolding just behind the pharmacy counter. So, as we stand at this turning point, what does the future really look like for biosimilars like Tuznue? Are we about to witness a true revolution in cancer care access, or will old barriers hold firm, choking off the promise of affordable treatment? Let's look forward. The potential is breathtaking. According to recent analysis, the global biosimilars market is expected to skyrocket, reaching a jaw-dropping $185 billion by 2033. That's a 24% annual growth rate, unmatched in the pharmaceutical world. This isn't just a new revenue stream for drug makers. It's a tectonic shift in how life-saving medicine gets into the hands of those who need it most. The agreement between Prestige Biopharma and Teva is more than a business deal. It's a signal, one of rising momentum. Teva's commercial engine covers 31 European nations, meaning Tuznue could become a familiar name in both university hospitals in Paris and small clinics in rural Spain. But here's where it gets fascinating: the consolidation of market power. As big players like Teva, Sandoz, Pfizer, and Celltrion race to secure partnerships and expand their biosimilar portfolios, we're seeing an arms race of innovation and scale. The winners? Potentially patients, if these companies can push prices down through sheer competition. Yet it's not all smooth sailing. Entrenched interests don't just roll over. Original biologic makers, for years the kings of the market, still wield potent weapons, patent litigation, subtle prescriber influence, and complex reimbursement webs designed to favor their own products. In the US, this has led to notorious launch delays and, at times, outright blockades for biosimilars. Europe, however, is forging a different path. Streamlined regulatory processes, strong cost containment policies, and a willingness to promote biosimilar use have made the continent a global leader. In Germany, for example, some insurers offer direct financial incentives to doctors who prescribe biosimilars. In Japan, we're seeing similar trends. Oncology biosimilars are on the rise, spurred by hospital incentives. Now imagine this: if Europe continues to set the pace, we could see an era where originator biologics are the exception, not the rule. New biosimilars, be it for cancer, autoimmune disease, diabetes, or even osteoporosis, could become the default first-line therapy. What would that mean? In some countries, it might lower national healthcare expenditures by billions. In others, it could mean the difference between a mother receiving treatment for breast cancer or being turned away because the original drug was simply unaffordable. But let's not ignore the risks. The biosimilar gold rush brings pricing pressures so intense that smaller manufacturers may be squeezed out, leaving room only for giants. Fierce competition could trigger price wars, yes, but it might also result in industry consolidation, less diversity, fewer choices, and potentially supply chain vulnerabilities. There's also the ever-present challenge of trust. Will doctors, patients, and payers fully embrace biosimilars as equivalent to their branded predecessors? The answer, at least so far, is cautiously optimistic. Decades of clinical experience and rigorous head-to-head trials have built a strong case for biosimilars' safety and efficacy. Dr. James D. Chambers from Tufts Medical Center puts it succinctly: biosimilars are steadily gaining momentum, transitioning from novel entrants to preferred therapeutic options due to their compelling cost-effectiveness. But as we look at the road ahead, one thing is clear: education and policy will play a crucial role. Healthcare professionals need actionable, unbiased evidence, real-world data showing biosimilars perform just as well. Patients deserve transparency and reassurance, especially when told their trusted brand medication is being switched out. Now, what about practical takeaways? What does this all mean for you, the patient, healthcare professional, policymaker, or simply the curious observer watching from afar? First, if you or a loved one are facing serious illness, be it cancer, an autoimmune condition, or chronic disease, know that biosimilars are opening up new possibilities. Ask your provider about these alternatives. They may be equally effective, rigorously tested, and dramatically more affordable. In many cases, switching to a biosimilar could cut out-of-pocket costs, reduce insurance copays, and make long-term treatment feasible. Second, for clinicians, staying informed is paramount. As more biosimilars get approved, whether it's trastuzumab, rituximab, bevacizumab, or the latest monoclonal antibody, the ability to discuss evidence, address patient concerns, and navigate hospital formularies becomes a core skill. Remember the growing body of data. Long-term studies confirm that transitioning patients from original biologics to biosimilars is safe, effective, and, in many health systems, now standard of care. For healthcare systems and policymakers, the biosimilar wave offers a toolkit for bending the cost curve. Bulk purchasing, tender systems, and financial incentives have already shown remarkable results in Europe. Imagine reallocating savings from cancer drug budgets to fund newer therapies or preventive care initiatives. The ripple effect is enormous. But here's a lesson that cuts even deeper. The story of biosimilars is a lesson in disruption. The status quo in medicine can be upended, not only by science but by policy, economics, and patient demand. Biosimilars, once dismissed as mere generics with fancy molecules, are now reshaping entire health economies. Cameron Santoro, a leading healthcare journalist, calls it a paradigm shift in healthcare, offering substantial cost-saving opportunities while simultaneously broadening patient access to essential treatments, particularly in the fields of oncology and immunology. So, do entrenched interests still have the power to block this revolution? They certainly hold sway, especially in markets bogged down by legal wrangling and reimbursement labyrinths. But the momentum is shifting. With every new approval, like Tuznue in 31 European countries, barriers fall, confidence grows, and access expands. For patients, the message is one of hope and empowerment. Biosimilars are not just a discount version. They are thoroughly validated, reliable medicines that may mean the difference between access and denial. For health professionals, it's a call to keep challenging assumptions, to trust the evidence, and to advocate for options that maximize both health and dignity. And for the industry, the real winners will be those who embrace partnership, like Prestige Biopharma and Teva, combining scientific know-how with distribution muscle. Such alliances will decide who rises to the top in the coming biosimilar era. As we reach our finale, let's return to our burning question. Will biosimilars like Tuznue overcome resistance and deliver true affordability, or will entrenched interests block the revolution? While the contest is far from over, the evidence points to a dramatic shift in favor of wider access and lower costs. Europe is leading the way, and the tide, despite obstacles, is turning. Biosimilars are poised not only to become mainstream, they are set to redefine what is possible in cancer care and beyond. Before you go, here's a secret fact that may surprise you. Did you know that the first biosimilar was approved in Europe all the way back in 2006, a humble growth hormone called Omnitrope? Since then, over 80 biosimilars have entered the European market. But in the coming decade, analysts predict that over 200 new biosimilars could get the green light worldwide. The pace of innovation isn't just steady, it's about to accelerate at warp speed. So whether you're a patient, a doctor, a policymaker, or simply someone who cares about the future of healthcare, the biosimilar revolution is your story too. If you want to stay informed about new advances, surprising partnerships, insider industry moves, and the next big leaps in biosimilar innovation, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video, and turn on notifications. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think biosimilars will change the future of medicine in your country? Have you had personal experience with biosimilar therapies? Your voice matters. Let's keep this conversation